Outer space is one of the most popular and successful movie themes of all time. I guess it's because people don't really know all that much about what's really out there in the cosmos, so we're kind of attracted to the mystery of the unknown. What do the stars above actually entail? What's our place within the universe? How much do we actually matter in this big ol' void we exist within? All valid questions that movies have tried to answer time and time again. Only, more often than not, they get things totally wrong.
Buckle up back there, we're going into hyperactive.
We have managed to figure out a lot about the science of outer space and how it actually works, and movies have historically gotten that pretty freaking wrong. For starters, there's no such thing as explosions in outer space. Space explosions, like the epic shot of the Death Star going off like a bomb, are just flat out not possible. In reality, for something to explode like that, there needs to be this important little thing called oxygen, which doesn't happen to exist out there. There is no atmosphere, so that kind of fire can't actually happen. Also, you know what else needs air in order to register? Sound. So while big sexy pyrotechnic explosions look cool on the big screen, they'd actually be pretty dull and silent in reality. Sorry to burst your unimpressive and volumeless bubble. On the flip side, space explosions are actually a lot more dangerous than they are on Earth, where shrapnel gets launched everywhere but inevitably lands somewhere. You can nonchalantly walk away from an explosion here on Earth while putting on your sunglasses and looking like a badass. In space, however, with the lack of atmospheric gravity, all that junk would just get flung in every direction, and it wouldn't stop or slow down until it encounters something that stops it. Speaking of slowing down, let's talk about speeding up.
Ludicrous speed! Go!
You've seen this trope before. Either Han Solo or Captain Kirk will boost their ship into light speed, as the stars turn into streaks of light, simulating the absurd speed in which the ship begins traveling. Yeah, that's nonsense. For starters, traveling at light speed is practically impossible by human standards. Perhaps they'll figure it out one day in the future, but according to science, it's pretty unlikely. Any ship utilizing that sort of power would be turned into interstellar dust right away. Moving at the speed of light would effectively eradicate every fiber of a human's form. I'm no scientist, but that sounds like a tricky issue to figure out a workaround for. Plus, stars don't even streak by you, no matter how fast you're going. Hyperspace travel actually looks a lot more like you're trekking down a long tunnel, with a bright dot on the horizon. That doesn't seem nearly as cool though. Another recurring error is that living beings would instantly freeze upon exposure to outer space. We can see Tim Robbins instantly turn into a block of ice in Mission to Mars, as well as Arnold Schwarzenegger's eyes bulging out of their sockets in Total Recall. But neither of those reactions are accurate. You see, heat transfer happens because of conduction, and there has to be some connection to let the heat escape, but that just doesn't happen in a vacuum. It would actually take a long time for you to freeze in outer space. You would, however, suffocate pretty quickly, so still not something you'd want to try. Perhaps the silliest recurring movie antic is the old space battle. You see this all the time in titles like Star Wars and Star Trek, where enemies chase each other around in high-speed space chases. For starters, turning a ship in outer space is a lot more like a car sliding across an icy road. There's no such thing as banking a sharp turn. Space is freaking slippery, you guys. It's nothing at all like flying an aircraft within the confines of Earth's atmosphere. You see, aircrafts on Earth use, well, air.
Alright, continue holding short. We have a hot air balloon on short final for runway 9. Continue holding short, hot air balloon about to land.
And that's something that just doesn't exist in outer space, making the whole ordeal a very different ballgame. There's also no such thing as resistance, so you can pull a quick 180 in outer space without so much as slowing down. Oh lord, they're gonna do the next Fast and the Furious movie in outer space, aren't they? Gosh darn it, just take my money already. Actually, let's take a look at some real movie examples and analyze how they did when compared to the actual scientific stuff that they're based on. Let's start with 1995's Apollo 13, a dramatic true story of the aborted 1970 Apollo 13 lunar mission. The movie is a classic, but how accurate is it really? Well, according to the planetary scientist Richard Elphick, it's actually pretty on point. Quote, "The technical details of zero-G and the actual explosions on the spacecraft that took place and took out the module was very realistic," Elphick explains.
Houston, we have a problem.
He continues, saying, quote, "I give Apollo 13 high marks for not only drama and a good storytelling endeavor, but the effects and the accuracy," end quote. Another film that apparently stays pretty close to accurate was 2015's The Martian, starring Matt Damon. It's about an astronaut left behind on Mars who has to fight for survival with limited resources. Apparently, the only small detail that wasn't entirely on point had to do with the dust storm and high winds, which apparently wouldn't be as violent and difficult in Mars's thin atmosphere. Also, according to the experts, if that many things go wrong with a mission, it would most likely just be abandoned. However, there really wouldn't be much of a story for the movie if the storms weren't so bad and the mission was just given up on pretty quickly. Canadian astronaut Robert Thirsk confirmed that much of the technology Matt Damon's character uses in the film either exists already today or is in development, including, quote, "the habitat growing crops in space, the spacesuit that Damon wore for the spacewalks, or the rover he drove around the planetary surface." 2016's Hidden Figures was another film that landed within the ballpark of possibility. The film focuses on 3 black female mathematicians who worked at NASA during the space race, playing a vital role in Project Mercury in the late 1950s and early 1960s. It centers primarily on these under-acknowledged individuals whose hard work made America's space travel possible, even using a blackboard to make real-time calculations for spaceflight that would literally make my head explode if I tried understanding. According to all involved, the movie did a good job of telling their stories, although there wasn't much actual space travel or fictional science for them to get wrong. And boy, do some movies get it wrong. Like 1998's Armageddon starring Bruce Willis, which the Canadian Space Agency says is the worst offender of all.
Somebody dial 911!
And that the Michael Bay flick is undeniably the most problematic. For starters, only the 3 largest asteroids in history can be described as, quote, "the size of Texas." Also, in the movie, they only discover it 18 days before impact. An asteroid that large would be as bright as the stars in Orion's belt if they were that close. No chance that they'd only discover it that late. Furthermore, the energy required to split that large an asteroid is 1,010 megatons, which is roughly 1 million times the world's nuclear arsenal. They end up using an 800-foot drill hole, which might sound big, but actually wouldn't be much compared to something the size of Texas. Another movie with massive scientific misfires is 2013's Gravity, starring Sandra Bullock and George Clooney, about 2 American astronauts attempting to return to Earth after their shuttle is destroyed. According to experts, the main issue had to do with the movie's main plot. The movie, which won 7 Academy Awards, features Sandra Bullock's character traveling to a nearby Chinese space station to try and return to Earth. According to astronaut Jeremy Hansen, quote, "Just to go from the International Space Station over to a Chinese space station, it actually takes a tremendous amount of energy to change orbits. There just isn't enough energy to make a change like that in outer space." According to astronomer and scientist Phil Plait, quote, "Gravity wasn't pulling Clooney's character away from Bullock's character. There were essentially no forces on him at all, so he had no weight for her to bear," end quote. Pretty much a small amount of force applied for just a few seconds easily could have saved him in real life. Finally, there's 2014's Interstellar, which was one of my favorite films when it came out, and I'm disappointed to find out how inaccurate it actually was. The movie portrays a future in which the Earth is nearly uninhabitable. NASA researchers go on a search through the cosmos to find somewhere more hospitable. It's a fantastic film, but the science is a little bit wonky. You can't blame them for trying, though. The physics are actually pretty accurate. The issues arise when they start dealing with wormholes and black holes. While it's fun and interesting to dive into the concept of a man in a spaceship successfully traveling through a black hole, it's absurd to think that that's remotely close to possible. Well, what do you think? Do you like space? Do you like space movies? Which one is your favorite? Let us know in the comments section down below, and let us know why you love it. Before you go, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, and don't forget to smash that subscribe button as well, because there's plenty more awesome Screen Rant content coming your way. Until next time, bye!